Okay, we ready?
Yo.
Okay, let me just get my setup. Okay, ready? Kia ora, talofa lava, and welcome to another episode of the Counter Ruck, a podcast where we discuss all things rugby. I'm the host of the Counter Ruck, Stacey, and today we welcome a knowledgeable panel of rugby enthusiasts. So let me start off by introducing everyone. Firstly, we have our loose forward expert and our Ponsonby rugby legend, Dan. Dan, thanks for coming on, brother. Are you cut us off already?
He's on mute.
Secondly, we have... Oh, okay. Secondly, we have our resident member of the Front Row Club and a diehard county supporter, Rog. Rog, thanks for coming on, us.
Maloni, ulu tonu mai e whakawhailoa i ki atu whakawhetai.
Oh, very impressive there, brother. Yep, talk Kiloan Language Week. Rog can bring out the big guns. And yep, last but not least, we have the host of the Pitch podcast on the WESWES network, as well as being a regular on the Counter Ruck, Joey. Joey, thanks for coming on, brother.
Thank you for having us here, City of the Future.
Is this another guy on mute?
You put that guy on mute.
Yep. Sorry, forgot to add that in. Yeah, City of the Future, from the City of the Future.
I must be delayed.
We'll talk about the City of the Future as well. What happened to them? What happened to them on the ITM Cup on the weekend a little bit later. But let me take care of a few housekeeping things before we start, boys. So we've got our website going. Check us out at www.weswesnet.com, and also you can follow the Counter Ruck on Twitter and Facebook, as well as our network YouTube channel. So give us a follow and give us a like. So, boys, a lot of things happened in the world of rugby since our last podcast, which I wanted us to look over. So the Mitre 10 Cup is still going strong, and we're seeing a few contenders emerge and a few pretenders, I guess, fall by the wayside. So we'll look at that. Also, some congratulations. The Central Kings, they emerged to win the inaugural Super Club Rugby Under-21 tournament, and they're the holders of the Sir Michael Jones Trophy. So, yeah, congratulations to them. And Canterbury won the women's NPC by beating Waikato, so a well-deserved win for them. And, of course, it wouldn't be a rugby podcast if we didn't discuss Bledisloe 3, and that's where we'll start today, boys. So the All Blacks took out that match 43-5, which is a record-winning margin in Bledisloe Cup matches. So, Danny, mate, seeing you're there, I'll come to you first, brother. What did you make of that game, the Bledisloe Cup test?
Can you hear me now? Test.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, there's a bit of a delay there. Yeah, it was a good game. Yeah, it was an interesting game. I didn't predict the All Blacks to pretty much thrash the Wallabies. Just coming from those two games they had here in New Zealand, I thought it was going to be a tougher game only because Australians were at home. But obviously, the first five and second five, the newbies, were just a little bit inexperienced there, and kind of played in favour of the All Blacks. They got outplayed, basically. But yeah, I think the All Blacks did an awesome job. And yeah, I honestly thought it was going to be a really, really tight game, but yeah, All Blacks did well. It's funny that that these young guys like Noah Lolosio and Arai Simone come in and kind of shows how much the experience of the likes of James O'Connor and Tamora, they played a big part in these first two games, and it was kind of tight for the ABs. But in saying that, it was funny because I remember they brought James O'Connor in real early, and same thing happened. His inexperience didn't play out for the Aussies back then, and now that he's come back a bit more mature, I see that that his experience could have helped out in the game. But yeah, well done to the ABs. It was an awesome game. There's a lot of screaming here at my house. It was good.
Yeah. It's good. It's a good point you bring up about the experience, because I think they've got some depth issues there, Australia. Now they had no choice but to chuck these young guys in once Tomoe and James O'Connor got injured, and you think they might have chucked him in Bledisloe probably before he was ready. I think he could have maybe used another year of development. Sometimes you just got to chuck these rookies in. Rog, is that the Blues had 9 players in that 23, and then from there they go and win break a record of the biggest winning margin. So I know Rog will be happy about that. So Rog, mate, what did you make of the game?
Yeah, it was just coincidental that the Blues had 9 members in that squad. It was good to see, especially with Riku Ioane back on the bench. Yep, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, especially with Riku Ioane coming back onto the bench after the talked about slam dunk incident in Bledisloe 1. But it's good to see him come back with a try. Has he learnt a lesson as to how to score tries, or he just continues on scoring the way that he has been scoring? But at the same time, it was good for his confidence for the young man, coming back into a side and winning it as well. Obviously, there's been talk about his try-scoring action, but that aside, awesome to see the All Blacks do what they needed to do to make sure that the Bledisloe was back in New Zealand for 18 years on the trot. So the biggest winning margin prior to this one on Saturday was 43-6, and that was when they beat the Wallabies in Wellington, 1996. So, no one really factored that in. That we were confident that the All Blacks would bring home the Bledisloe Cup, but in the fashion that they did, to beat it by 1 point. So 43-5 beats 43-6 by 1 point to make it that biggest winning margin, and in the 117 years that they've been playing. I think at ANZ Stadium alone, apparently they've played there 3 times prior, and twice the All Blacks were up at halftime. 2016 they were 32-3 at halftime. 2017 40-6 at halftime. And then 2018, 6-5, Australia were up at halftime. So they didn't have a too great a track record, but in recent times, in 2018, they seem to be getting better. But like Danny mentioned, the experience of Matt Tomoe and James O'Connor were so noticeable, especially right from their get-go after Dongunu got the sin bin. It was just, following, all the talk leading into this the third test, how Dongunu was going to handle Caleb Clark, and handle he did in the air, and yellow card he received. So, it was just unfortunate. It came real hard watch, and I think the sentimental side of it was for Dave Rennie, for mine, is that, obviously he had instilled a huge belief in the team in game 1, and so they were confident leading into game 2. And you had stalwarts of the Australian game, as in Phil Kearns and Campese, come to the fore saying how this was a different Australian side. And then after game 3, it seems like they've taken massive leaps backwards as opposed to moving forward. But it could only be good for the development of their team, the young players, especially those debutants that came in. But I couldn't help but notice a lot of their deficiencies were down to the inexperience. And but just it was good to see the All Blacks at the same time playing very free-flowing rugby. But I think I understand how the Australians were kicking so much possession away when they really needed to hold on to the ball, but at the same time, just too many mistakes. And the All Blacks, obviously, Australia focusing on Caleb Clark, and yet, the All Blacks around him supported Caleb Clark by making sure that they capitalised on the opportunities around it. But just a great win for the All Blacks. Great to see Sam Cane factor in the first as a captain as well. So, but 18 years, a very hard way back. Can't see it happening anytime soon for the Wallabies.
Yeah. It's interesting. When we did our podcast, the last podcast we had some audio issues, and we lost Joey, who came up with a massive call that the Wallabies were going to win the World Cup in 2023, which I don't know. That's looking a million miles away now. So, Joey, mate, I'll come to you.
Confirm
I'll get your thoughts on the
Joey,
game, but I also want to,
Was Joey drunk? Or?
I want to get your thoughts
he can
on that,
easily
but also
deny
your
it. He can
thoughts
easily. No, I never said that.
on.
He had proof.
I stand by that 100%.
That's why I wanted to bring it up so we got on record.
I'll see you guys.
Joey, your thoughts on the game, but also what you think the Australia needs to do.
My thoughts on the game. Just outclassed when it came to the crunch. The experience showed and the inexperience showed of the Wallabies. But in saying that, they will be better for it. And in a couple of years' time, they may even win a World Cup because of it. So, yes, I do stand by my prediction that Australia will take the World Cup. That's my early prediction, early doors. And there's a few reasons for it. And the main one is the development of the junior Wallabies when they took out the competition last year. I just was in awe. And the fact that they've got someone like Dave Rennie there at the helm now will further help their development and give them some test match experience, especially when they're playing against a team like the All Blacks. They can learn from this and come back. A couple of years' time is a long time to learn. So the match itself, the Bledisloe test match, it was good to see a different side to Caleb Clark. You didn't see the flashy, big, massive run where he bumps off everyone and scores a try, but you did see him work off the ball when it came to defense and offense. He was even found on the right wing there trying to score a try that was disallowed in the end, which was unfortunate. I think there were a few key standouts. For me, the standout in the game, given his lack of test match footy in the last couple of years compared to previously, Dane Coles. I thought he came back with a vengeance, basically, and re-stamped himself as the hooker of the All Blacks. And unfortunately for the likes of Cody Taylor and Asafo Moore and the likes, Dane Coles still has a mortgage on that jersey, and he showed on the weekend.
Do you reckon, Joey, he'll make it through to the next World Cup, though?
Dane Coles? Oh, that's a tough one.
Because a lot of it, it hasn't been his form. It's been just injuries. Which have, and that could be telling in terms of his age, body sort of slowly succumbing to those injuries and the contact. But, yeah. Yeah,
I think injuries aside, it'll come down to the individual himself. If he can, keep that attitude that he's always had, that mentality, then I see no reason why he wouldn't be in that squad for his experience alone.
Parsons not going to sneak in for 2023, please.
Sorry, who's that?
Parsons, no.
I think he's going to the Chiefs next year. Yeah, good game in the end.
Richie
Mo'unga. The boys. It was a good game. Good, go carry on, Rog. Richie Mo'unga's. I think he might have silenced the critics. So I just thought on the dual playmakers that have been trying for ages.
Yeah, I thought Joey was going to mention Richie Mo'unga when he alluded to Dane Coles. But similar sort of scenario. He hasn't received much game time over the years due to the incumbents and Bowden Barrett being in there, and a lot of talk about him not being able to transfer his Super Rugby play through to international level. And I think on the weekend it showed that has he arrived now? Has Moanga now proven to the naysayers that he is good enough to be at international level as a star first five? Obviously, with Bowden Barrett there, they complemented each other very well, and the likes of Lema Sopoanga as well in the past hasn't really. They said that he never really probably reached his full potential as an All Black, leaving the shores too early. But Richie Moanga, maybe he's stating a claim now that he could well suit that first five jersey for the years, especially in the next few years anyway, through to the next World Cup and beyond. But almost 3 tries. It's got to say something.
Yep.
It's the way that he went about it as well. It was just awesome to see.
Yeah. I like the. I think that's the first time I've thought the dual playmaker system actually works for the first time in 18 months or whatever they've been doing it for. So it's good to see that. Agree with you about Moanga playing really good. But I wanted to have a look at if going forward now that the Bledisloe Cup secured. Dan's, mate, I'll come to you. Would you be looking at making any changes for the All Blacks just with this dead rubber, I guess? Is that a chance to blood some new guys or something like that?
Just with the current squad you talking about?
Yeah. Like, would you make any changes now? The Bledisloe Cup's won. They've got one more game next week. Would you be giving some of these other kids a go?
I think so. I think we can afford to make a few changes. Bring these, like you said, the young blood coming through. Be good to see. I don't know what the injury is with Sam Cane with his neck. That would look like a pretty bad, bad tackle. When he went in that tackle, his neck just like got crunched in there. So it'll probably give opportunities for maybe the likes of either Griffey or Dalton Papali'i probably. There's a Vae Tupu, the lock. He's good. Be good to see those guys come through. It'll also be good to see Jack Goodhue to have a seat on the bench. Maybe bring in.
I've got that written down too.
Yeah, he hasn't been one of my favorites. He's been Gaia really.
Hey, that's Joey's best mate, Jack Goodhue. He's Jack Goodhue's fan club's number one supporter.
Oh, is it your best mate? Is it? Sorry, man.
No,
but he's not a 12, bro. Hey, he's not a 12.
He's a Northland boy. He's a good player. He's a good player.
Yeah, he's a good player, but I don't think he's a 12. He's more of a centre, and I think our only 12 we have is probably Lomapi.
Ooh,
be interesting that midfield. Yeah.
I think the All Blacks need a TJ Faiane.
Ooh.
A quiet toiler who sets everyone else up.
Is TJ paying you some side money? Because you bring him up a lot in these podcasts. You talk him up, man. You're like, I don't know.
It's because I'm always for the underrated. I'm always for the underrated underdog.
Yeah.
I mention him probably about as much as Roger mentions Caleb Ralph. Instead of Caleb Clark. So I think Caleb Ralph owes you a beer, Roger.
Or do I owe him a?
Hey, can I also
what
say
you guys make of that?
Sorry, I was just going to say my player of the match of that game will probably be the silent achiever, Shannon Frizzell.
Okay.
Only because he's a workhorse and he's high tackle rate and he does run the ball quite a bit, and he is that quiet achiever that no one sees in the background, but he does what he's supposed to do. He could have easily taken that Dane Cole's try, but you see him pass it back, just not being a greedy king.
Another guy who worked off the ball really well was Satutu, I thought.
Mm.
He was always there when tries were scored.
He helped Carl.
It's a good point on Frizzell, because in that first game, that first Bledisloe, I thought he was horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was interviewed recently, and he pretty much said he had to pull his head in.
Who, Carl or?
Yeah, good
Shannon?
thoughts there, boys.
It's a bit of a delay, eh?
Yeah, the delay's not helping.
Yeah, some good thoughts there, boys. So it will be interesting to see what Foster does for the last dead rubber, and also what Dave Rennie does as well. Because I know, Joey, you've talked them up, take it out. They need to fix the defense. That's the biggest thing with Aussie. They conceded so many points, 40 points, and they missed so many tackles. And that was 2 Bledisloes in a row where the defense has really let them down. So it was that was poor. I thought Jordan Pitaya, I think someone mentioned that earlier. He looks like he's going to be special. He was awesome for Australia in a pretty well-beaten team.
Yeah, he was fighting still to the end.
And I agree with you boys about Goodhue. Yeah, boys, have you got any other thoughts on the games? Rog, would you be making any other changes?
Yeah, I'd like to see them bring in
more Blues players.
Maybe give not charity or anything like that, but they've got the Series 1, and then maybe blood a few guys that probably won't take part too much in the is it back to Tri Nations now that we're 3 countries again, or is it the Rugby Championship?
Yep.
So yeah, the likes
Nations.
of Asafo Moore getting a shot, Karifi, maybe give a few guys a start, like Alex Hodgman. And the way that I saw Hodgman progress, like Taniela Tupou felt his the power of Hodgman in the scrums, but at the same time, and he kept on standing up, and that's why he was getting penalised a couple of times. But then, not long after that, in a scrum, he lifted Alex Hodgman. Alex Hodgman was lifted in a scrum. So, yeah. So they got something to work on there, but obviously there is a bit of power from Taniela Tupou. But what I really liked, like you mentioned, Stacey, about the defense, and they've got to work on their defense especially. But in that try, the first try to Mo'unga was how they switched sides from a scrum. Was it Aaron Smith to Mo'unga coming around to the blind side? He went through the gap between Brandon Painga Amosa, and then to step on the real short blind, to step as opposite Noah Lolesio in order for him to get in that try. So, but just on Noah Lolesio, I don't know whether it was just because it was his first international try, his debuting, for him to celebrate the way he did when he scored his first try, their only try. It was just a bit awkward. But you could see the emotion, obviously.
It was right after half time.
Yeah.
They
the emotion was
still had
obviously
half
quite
a
high.
chance if they pulled finger.
Yeah.
His defense was woeful. I felt sorry for Lolesio because they really targeted him and he was exposed defensively. So
I think he was.
I'm not sure Moore's out long term, and that's a big loss. Sorry, Karen Rich.
Yeah, I think he was found out as well, and I think he was in the centres, a debutant, Irai Simone. Well.
Yep.
Yeah. So he
Roger.
He tried to be inventive, but again, I can't stress enough how they missed Tomoa and James O'Connor in there.
Roger, Irai Simone, you've played against his old man.
Did I?
Yep. So his old man used to play for Otahu. His name's Lauli Simone.
Yeah, because I heard he's gone over there not long ago, like 2012, 13 or something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Lolleseal's old man as well. So this speaks to the pedigree of talent that we have in South Auckland. You know, Irai Simone, his old man, South Auckland, and even Lolly Seal's old man, South Auckland. Even though, you know, those unfortunate that those two didn't quite have the best debuts.
That's right, and you got Peter Samu as well, and who's in the squad, who played in that first test, and then
Yes.
who was the other one? Paisami? Hunter Paisami. Yeah, he's another South Auckland boy as well. Mangere College. Yeah, that interesting. And I think I wrote, I saw in an article where Irai's great grandmother, how she was, even though she's in Australia now, she's always supporting the All Blacks. But in this instance, a video posted how she was sending her prayers to her great grandson Irai and wishing him well. And that for the first time, she was supporting the Wallabies. Bit like Judith Kalava.
Mate, it's interesting how, like, I think Ryan Nisbet, he made a point to talk about how many New Zealand-born guys that they had through the that time. So guys like you mentioned, Loli Seal and Simone, New Zealand-born guys. I think Painga Mosa's another one. They've got a few. They had a few going there. So it's just part of the trans-Tasman thing. You know, people immigrate all the time.
That's the landscape of rugby these days, you know. Obviously, you've got the likes of Taniela Tupou as well there. And they were saying how there was enough people in the Wallabies to probably do a haka to counter the All Blacks haka.
True.
Oh, I didn't see that. That's nice. Right, boys. Some good thoughts there on the Bledisloe. Unless if no one's got anything else to add, we'll move on to our next topic. So, rugby is, it's an ever-changing beast, and the counter ruck is also adapting to these changing times. So I wanted to look a little bit closer to home at some competitions that don't get a lot of love, and congratulate Canterbury for winning their 4th straight Wharewa Palmer Cup, and also the Central Kings for winning the Super Club Rugby Under-21 tournament. So we've spoke about both of these competitions before, but I wanted to just get some thoughts on these two champion teams that won. So just FYI, guys, Canterbury beat Waikato in their final 8-7, and the Central Kings, they beat the West Rangers 28-19 in the under-21s. So, Roger, I know you talked up that under-21s tournament, and also I know you've got positive things to say about the women's comp. So I'll come to you, mate. Did you make anything of those two competitions and the two teams that won? Anything to say on that?
Just with the Super Club under-21s competition. Yeah, it was over the last 4 weeks, about a month that they played at the local Waitemata Rugby Club, and interesting that the final was the first game for the Waitemata for the West Rangers. So they played them first, and they beat them. They beat the Central Kings in the first game. So the way that it's been touted is that, and the Rangers, the West team, were lucky to they went on through on a bonus point, and so they were due to points difference. So the South Side Rising missed out due to a points difference to make that final. So West team were able to make the final, and unfortunately it just seemed like the Central Kings were just getting better and better each week. So after that first loss, they won every week after that, and including the final. So I think they just got better as the tournament went on. Unfortunately for the Waitemata Rangers, they just fell short. That was a tight game in the end, but good crowds as well. Good exposure for these young kids who probably won't necessarily get any representative rugby post normal club season due to COVID stamping out the club season a lot sooner than everyone would have liked. It was good reward for a lot of those players. There was one player that was playing in the Waitemata Rangers team who just last year was playing for the years before was only playing senior ones. And this year the Mammoth team that were playing reserve rugby. They were the champions for the senior first side, but this young kid was still young enough to play in the under 21s team. So he did really well in cementing a spot there and played well throughout the tournament. So just that kind of exposure that they can get, and hopefully next year this young man can probably try and vie for a place in the Premier side, and who knows beyond that. But it's interesting to see where it would go in the future, whether is this just going to be a one-off due to COVID, or is it something that they can persist with? Hopefully that it's the latter, but because some of these players, like I say, won't necessarily get any representative rugby. But yeah, take my hat off to Tony Loftonor from the Waitakere Rugby Club, for coming up with this idea and making it come to fruition with a lot of other people in the background that's been able to assist as well. So well done to Henry Samuels for his team, Southside Rising, and Junior Polu Linganga as well, and all the management there, and Central Kings as well, JP, and Tani Funga, part of there, and Mani as well, Toiloa. Sorry, I didn't.
Are you taking the West? Money?
Mani was with the Central Kings.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because he's coaches.
Oh, right.
He's the head coach for College Rifles.
The West won the first game they had a few weeks earlier, eh?
That's right. The first game against Central Kings, the West team won. Yeah, so it was. Unfortunately, they just dropped it at the end. Because then they went on to lose to Southside Rising as well. But Southside, like I say, missed out just on points difference to make that final.
Yep.
But unfortunately, I didn't really follow the Farah Palmer Cup, unfortunately. But I did see that Canterbury women's team won.
Yep. Canterbury, that was their fourth straight win, I think, in the women's Farah Palmer Cup. So congrats to them. What about you, Joy? Did you make anything of those two tournaments? The under 21s tournament won by the Central Kings and the Farah Palmer Cup, which Canterbury won their fourth one?
To be honest, I didn't really follow the Farah Palmer Cup as avidly as I did last year. But the other competition, the under 21s competition, I thought was quite cool. The coolest thing for me is the fact that it's, when they win the Sir Michael Jones Trophy. And it's a pretty cool trophy. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's Sir Michael Jones scoring a try. It's the same trophy in the mold of the statue that's outside Eden Park.
Yep.
So no, it's a really cool trophy. Yeah, I mean, Roger said it all. Few teams were like Southside Rising. I thought they would go on to be at least one or two, but they ended up taking third place and beating East. But no, it's definitely needed. So well done to the organisers, like Roger said. Definitely needed, and I'm sure those boys will be pushing for, I don't know, Premier Club rugby sides, and all sorts of teams following that competition. And it's always good for the individual to keep active after the regular club rugby season. So these types of competitions and even village rugby can help in some way to keep these boys active.
I think it does half the job
100%.
as well for the scouts as well, because just like schoolboy rugby on Sky TV, with this now exposing some of the kids that miss out on those traditional representative sides. They don't even have to see them, just watch it on Sky and then, oh yeah, I like the look of this young fella. Let's give him a chat. Let's find out who he is. And then, so some of these kids will get that sort of exposure, but hopefully it just leads on to them progressing well and keeping them in the game as well, because far too many young kids are if they're not making representative sides by the time they finish high school, by the time they're 20, they sort of give it away. What's the point? They're not there to persist in. They're wanting, especially those that have been superstars at high school level. If they don't slot right into any professional setup straight away, it's almost like they either go overseas and pick up whatever they can over there, switch codes to rugby league, or stop playing it at all. And I see that too often, as well as you'll probably see the same, Joey. Young kids who were superstars and then due to different change of priorities or circumstances that they give the game away.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's quite unfortunate. I mean, in different countries, it's kind of similar, but a little variance in that my experience with the London, UK rugby scene, club rugby scene anyway, a lot of the boys there, they play up until, and they play really passionately, up until they reach the ages of 17 or 18, when they have to head off to university or college, or university over there. And then they follow their mates into other sports, and it's only a small percentage that come back to rugby because they've come back to the area where they grew up. So I can see that happening here, but on a really small scale compared to what's happening over there. So there is danger, there is risks of losing that talent, or losing that, those kids who grow up with the passion of rugby, and then they end up just being rugby followers rather than players.
Yeah, 100% agree, boys. Now, one thing that I found with the West Rangers, they are on a similar path to you guys, where they've found that there's a mass falling away after high school. So like you touched on, Roger, if you haven't made it, or you're not sort of in these development programs, and a lot of players, once high school finishes, give up the game. So what they've done is they involved Massey High, my old school, and they got them to help out with the haka just before the final, and they're trying to sort of bridge that gap and keep that pathway open for those people who played rugby in school but didn't get picked up, like you mentioned, Rog. They've still got another pathway, and they're trying to funnel them into this competition. So I think that was really well done. All the teams, they all had their own haka, which I thought was good. It's helping to build that mana and that passion for those jerseys that you're playing for, which I thought involved, to touch on the things that you guys have mentioned. So I think that this has served a purpose, if none other than keeping people in the game and keeping the young people interested in playing. But I'm just interested to see if anyone kicks on. So there's a guy that I heard was pretty good. I didn't actually see him that much, from the Central Kings, and he played second five for them. Reece Siusiu, I think his name was, and I think he might be from Ponsonby, although I could be corrected. Your old team there, Joey, and yeah, apparently he was one of the guys that got a special mention for a player to watch out for. So hopefully he kicks on and plays for Mitre 10 Cup for Auckland, because seeing these are all Aucklanders, hopefully we can keep them all. But yeah, another player to keep out for. Go to the Chiefs, yeah. And with that guy we mentioned before, MacGyver Luchan, I think he got a couple of tries throughout the season. So
what a name! Maybe
some guys that might kick on from here, and you can say, yeah, we mentioned them earlier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I forgot to say, the Paraparma Cup. Yes, there's a few sons. Mana Ashford's son was playing for the West. Someone else had a son in there, which I can't remember. I saw someone else's name that I recognised.
I know Filippo Saina's son was in there as well, I think.
Yeah, so it's interesting when you see some of the names, you think, oh, cool, I wonder if that's so-and-so's son. I did wonder if that was, I didn't know if that was Mana Ashford's son, but I saw the Ashford name in there. I thought, oh, I wonder if that's his boy there. But yeah, it's good, keeping the traditions going. Is he with you boys?
Yeah, so he played his first season of Premier Rugby this year, only for COVID to stamp it out early. But he's making his own mark in fullback or wing. Very talented young man.
Oh, nice.
Very nice.
Yep. Good work, boys. And just on the Farah Palmer Cup, obviously, yeah, congratulations, 4 in a row. That's amazing for Canterbury. I think they went undefeated this whole season as well, so they look to be amazing. One thing that did come through, which I'll mention, is they don't have HIAs, which I didn't realise until recently. So there was this massive head collision, and because they don't have the same sort of protocols that the men's team do, they just played on with this this girl who was clearly concussed, so she couldn't go off. And
How does that work? How can they not have the same HIA procedures in place?
well, they interviewed. Someone asked some hard questions to the New Zealand Rugby Union.
Hey, so brothers.
And hey brother, they mentioned because not all the games are televised, so there's inconsistencies in how of the rules and come into play with it, the lack of replays and all the rest of it. So that was their reasoning, that they can't get the same level of consistency for that reason, which I thought was pretty ordinary. But yeah, no HIAs. Sully, mate, thanks for joining us. We're just talking about the two teams that won some trophies. So Canterbury won the Farah Palmer Cup for the 4th time, and the Central Kings, they won the Sir Michael Jones Cup for the under-21s tournament. So I'm not sure if you had any thoughts on both of those tournaments and the teams. Just trying to touch on some different stuff.
No, I'm just happy that Canterbury will at least win a cup, even if it's the females.
Yeah. Yeah, no, good. Yeah, hard to disagree. I don't know what's going with the men's team, but maybe we'll move on to that. We'll talk about the we'll stick with the domestic game for a second. We'll look at the men's, the Mitre 10 Cup. So I think we may have got an early semi-final preview because the top 4 teams all played each other, and out of it, Auckland have emerged as the top of the table. But I wanted to focus on the other end, what you just mentioned there before, Saleh. So Canterbury, I don't know, they're a stalwart of New Zealand rugby, and they've lost their last 3 games, and they're sitting bottom of the table. They're a real good chance of being relegated. So, Saleh, mate, I'm not sure, what have you made of the Canterbury men's team this season, and why do you think they're just going so poorly? That's so un-Canterbury like.
Yeah, I'm not too sure exactly what's going on with them. As far as I can see, most of the games they've lost are being tightly contested. So it might just be a matter of the other teams have pretty much caught up and playing a lot more better footy. As we've seen over the weekend, most of the teams now are going not to the 80-minute, but right past it. So player talent is pretty much well dispersed as well right throughout the country. I just think everyone else is pretty much playing at the same level that Canterbury has been playing for for over a decade now. So it's more a testament to the competition itself and the improvement of all the teams. Yeah,
it's hard to put a finger on it too, because I tried to have a think, and I couldn't really come up with any really, really good reasons why. But Joey, mate, I'll come to you, mate. What have you made of Canterbury's demise? Is this a sign of things to come for them? Do you think it might?
Mate,
they might
I think
start to fall back to the pack.
Like also Sully said, I couldn't put my finger on it. I immediately look at development, the talent coming through when I see a powerhouse like Canterbury falling short during the season. I think it might just be a glitch. It might just be a glitch in their legacy and in their dynasty, if you like. I think it's every team goes through it. It's just one of those troughs, that they're going through at the moment. And I think when a team like Canterbury does 2 or 3 seasons like that in a row, then you start to worry. I mean, of course, everyone's going to worry now because we're so used to them being right at the top or there and thereabouts until the business end of the season when they just kick everyone's ass. So I think give them a bit of time. I mean, even if they don't place well in this season or they even get relegated, I think give them a bit of time. They may be going through a rebuilding phase throughout the province with right down to a grassroots level, schools, club rugby, and maybe go through some things. I mean, the region itself, obviously in the last 10 years, they haven't had the best time. So maybe this is a result of that. I don't know, but they deserve to have one shitty season, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. They've been a juggernaut. They've been the best team for a long time. So you've got to give them a little bit of slack, I guess. But one thing I'll say, that was their first loss. Canterbury, that was their first loss to Otago in 15 years. And they've only scored 4 tries in those last 3 games. So I think they might have some issues with the attack. But we don't want to talk too much about Canterbury because I'm not going to lie, I'm sort of glad that they're not doing that good. But I wanted to look at the other side of the table, the top of the table.
Sorry, Stace.
Yeah, carry on, Sonny.
Yeah, sure. So do you guys reckon it might be just the issue of schedule? Because I believe if it was the proper rugby calendar, most of the All Blacks will be playing either early on or midway through the season, and then most of them will probably break off near the later rounds or come back in the later rounds. I'm not too sure. Do you reckon it might be an issue that because they don't have all their All Blacks or their key figures available for selection as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think the combination of all those things, especially the key players that they want in there to lead the team in those key positions. Yeah,
because I'm pretty sure Monga, off the top of my head, he plays quite a bit of my 10. And he alone can help steer a team, in the right direction easily.
Yeah, for sure. Where's Havili right now?
Tasman?
Ah, right.
He's with Tasman. Yeah.
That's right.
He's playing for Tasman. He's the captain of them, and he's awesome. He just picked up where he left off. He had that injury and he's come back. I think he's second equal top try scorer already.
Oh, true.
Just behind some of those Auckland boys, but I just, when you think of Havili, I'm not sure why I didn't get picked to that extended squad for the All Blacks. I really rate him that highly, but I wanted to look at Auckland. Auckland at the top of the table. So Joey, mate, I'll come to you because I know that you actually picked Auckland to win the whole competition when we did our NPC preview, and that's looking pretty good. I actually listened to Roger when we did our bets, and I put our money on Tasman, but Auckland are looking awesome. So, mate, I'll come to you, Joey. Why did you pick them? Why did you pick them to win, I should say, and why do you think they're going as well as they are?
I think I've looked at it from the lenses of club rugby, and I saw there were a few RDOs during this season, club rugby season, that were doing a really good job, even last season with the recruiting. And I thought the fruits of their labour will show up in the form of good results with the NPC team at some point. And at the beginning stages, I thought, okay, the Blues were doing well in the Super Rugby competition. And then I thought, okay, off the back of that, there will be some inspiration filtering down to the club rugby, high school rugby kids. They'll be inspired to want to get to those levels. And I just take myself back to the 90s and the 2000s when it was the same. If Auckland Blues were doing well, it always filtered down to NPC rugby and then club rugby. So and the amount of talent that comes out of Auckland, it's undeniable. And I think Auckland have done really well to retain a lot of that talent, not all of it, but a lot of it. And it was more of a gut feeling with regard to the actual Auckland NPC team, off the back of all those behind the scenes things.
Yeah, I like that correlation. I think John Hart, he said something similar maybe 3-4 years ago when the Blues were just dire, and they asked him, hey, look, how do you fix the Blues? What's going on with the Blues? And he said, you got to go a level lower. You need to fix Auckland rugby. When Auckland rugby's going good, then those players will play well for the Blues. So the two work together, and you can't sort of fix one without fixing the other. So, yeah, good pick up there, Auckland and the Blues. sort of there's intertwining things there. So hopefully it's the same with Canterbury and the Crusaders. Hopefully Canterbury drop down and the Crusaders can drop down a bit, so the Blues can have a better chance. But Sally, mate, I'll come to you, mate. What have you made of Auckland and the NPC? I know that they pummeled Waikato on the weekend, which is quite telling considering that Waikato are in the contender category at this stage. So, mate, what have you made of Auckland?
Yeah, Auckland
through
have,
the Mitre Cup.
yeah, they've been surprisingly good. I think the way they travelled through the year, it was expected. Some of those losses maybe a bit unexpected, but the true test was against Tasman, and when they doubted Tasman in that game, I started to look at Auckland in a different light, that they actually might be the team to beat. So I think it comes back to not only what Joey said about the development, but just the good system and the good culture that Alama and Filutitia have installed within the camp, and it correlates to what Leon McDonald's doing with the Blues. So if anything, winning breeds a good culture, and if you're winning, whatever the coaches are saying, everyone buys into it. So the last 3 years they've won, they've lost in the semi, and we're looking at a good deep run into the finals. And if things stay as they are on the table, Auckland's hard to beat at home. So, God willing, no serious injuries, and
Yes.
no major setbacks. But yeah, Auckland's looking to, we might be hosting the finals all the way through. So, the talent's there, man. Like, if you look at the amount of players that are playing in All Blacks that are not available for selection, far out. We're deep, and that's like Joey said, it's our development. Like, we've never had such a deep loose forward pool before, even just within the front row and maybe just the forward pack in general. We've always had the backs, but we've never had the platform, and it's the platform that sets everything up. And we've got competition from all the way from 1 to 8, and that includes the bench spots as well. One of the number 8 they played on the weekend had a blinder of game, Sona Tupolotu. I played against him. He was one of the Ardmore's key players. Good kid, young kid. He's only 24, 25. He's a number 8. He plays 6. He can play lock, but he's good runner, strong on D, good at the rucks, and good at the lineup. Okay, if you have players like that who are all hungry, for that next level of success and taste of success, it only breeds good competition, and then it puts the players that have already in the Super Rugby frame or All Black frame, it puts them on check as well. I just think what they're doing at Auckland is amazing, and if we had this chat maybe 5 years ago, never ever believed this would be the situation. But like I said, fingers crossed, and I just hope it just keeps on. The run keeps going.
Yep. Good thoughts there, Rog, mate. You've just jumped back on with us, brother. We're talking about the Mitre Cup. So we're looking at both ends. So Auckland, they're at the top and why they're going good, and Canterbury, for some unknown reason, are in danger of being relegated at the bottom. So have you got any thoughts on the Mitre Cup, and particularly those two teams are the ones that we're focusing on, what's happening at the top and the bottom?
Yeah, I like the Farah Palmer Cup. I haven't really been following the Mitre 10, but I did manage to catch the Auckland v Waikato game on the weekend, and Salesi Rayasi, you guys might have already touched on him. And
Hey,
what a star!
Properly, eh?
Salesi Rayasi, Bula. Yeah, what a talent, eh? I mean, not only can he score tries, he's got a bit of razzle-dazzle, outstanding pace. Number 14 on the wing there for Auckland, but he could also kick across. And you mentioned that Tupolotu, Sione Tupolotu, Sally, and he scored that try in the last try of the game, and that was because of a cross kick from Rayasi. And so, talented kid, he can do everything, and he was everywhere. But Harry Plummer as well. He's had some sort of stop-start seasons over the last few years, coming in and out of the Blues as well. Basically, there was a time there when they had Bowden Barrett come in this year as well, or Teddy Black, Harry Plummer. So where did they put him? They were putting him at number 12, more than number 10. But he was a good general on the weekend for Auckland, guiding them around the park. But at the same time, being really sound with a boot, and got a few points there, conversions and penalties. So I think he's quite confident as well when things go his way. But interesting to see whether he'll get another Blues contract. Has he already been signed? He's pretty much with the Blues as well. But
Yeah,
interesting that Salesi Rayasi
The
is with
Hurricanes.
the Hurricanes. Yeah. So obviously they've got a lot of talent out on the wings with the likes of Mark Telea and Caleb Clark as the incumbents. But, where do you put a guy like Rayasi? Do you keep him in the development ranks or in the squad just to learn and that? Or Hurricanes have been using him sparingly as well down there? He's only had 2... Oh, no, that's not right. This is outdated. It's got him in Wikipedia. It's got him 2 caps, but it could be outdated. Yeah, so
he hardly features. Could be right.
Mm.
Could be.
yeah. But then that stat's correct as of a year ago, so it's outdated. I'm not sure how many games he's played for Wellington, but at the same time, he is a Wellingtonian, so it's understandable that he does play for the Canes, the Blues. But he's a St. Patrick's College Silverstream product. Auckland have managed to pick him up for the Mitre 10. Whether they can secure him for a Blues contract, I'm not too sure. He's probably signed with the Hurricanes again. But he was a standout, and so was Harry Plummer for mine. Waikato seemed frustrated. They were trying. Liam Messam, the warhorse, was doing his best to stay in the game, but just at the same time, I think if he can manage to get 100 games for the Waikato, he'll join the likes of Dwayne Monkley and those legends down in the Waikato and the Mulus.
Yeah. Yeah, good thoughts there. Interesting about Rayasi because, man, I think he was second in the Dwayne Monkley medal last year, and he looks like he'll be one of the favourites this year. So he's really carved up at the Mitre 10 Cup level, I should say. He barely gets a game with the Hurricanes, so
Yeah.
I'm not sure why. He's very, very talented. Maybe this year might be his year because I know that
They're short
a
on
couple of
wingers.
the outside backs have left.
Yeah.
Wes Wilson's not there anymore, and someone else has left. Ben Lamb's left,
Oh, where's Wes
so
Wilson?
he could be in there. He took some European contract.
Overseas.
I don't know if they're still going
Okay.
with his with all the COVID stuff, but yeah, I know he was scheduled to leave as well. So maybe he'll get some more game time because he's quality, man.
Yeah, at
And
least
that
they're
other
not
guy on the
doing
other wing,
this
AJ Lamb's another guy.
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah,
So Rayasi's just overtaken him for the most tries in the Mitre 10 Cup, right? Because AJ Lamb was, I think they were square, but then he scored 3 tries. But AJ Lamb, yeah, he caught the kick from Rayasi, offloaded to Tupolotu to score that last try. But yeah, he's a talent as well.
yep. Exciting times coming up, boys, for Auckland Rugby and Blues Rugby, hopefully. But yep, yeah, a lot to be thankful for. I'm thinking that our tips, because Joey, you picked Auckland to win it. Rog, you went for Tasman. I think that they're lining each other up for a potential final.
Yeah.
And we'll see how that all goes. Yeah, boys. But if we've got no more thoughts on the Mitre 10 Cup, we'll move on and do some tips. So we've got our TAB account, which our listeners or viewers will be aware of. We'll just get a tip from the boys. Put a $10 bet on, cheeky 10, make us some millions. So, Rog, mate, have you got anything for our TAB account?
I'm just looking at some of the lineups. What week are we into now? It's
We're round 9 in the Mitre 10 Cup coming up.
yeah. So I'm thinking.
And I think Bledisloe 4 this weekend too, I think.
Ooh, is that
on
Taranaki
as well.
to try and
Yep.
Taranaki and Hawke's Bay?
I don't think it might be Argentina, I believe, in the All Blacks. I'm not too sure.
Was it? It
It
could
might
be.
be.
I'll have to check the schedule.
Mm.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm thinking you got Tasman, who's probably going to flog a dead horse. Flog them while they're down. Tasman to beat Canterbury.
It's in Tasman too, eh?
Ooh,
So that'll be
that'll be a good
Crusaders.
that'll be a game.
Local
That's the
derby.
Crusaders. Your Crusaders local derby. Good calling it. Yeah, I quite like that. Bet Tasman to take Canterbury. Canterbury not going so good. Tasman are genuine title contenders. So yeah, good shout there. So that's 7:05 that game on Saturday night. What about you, Sully? Have you got anything for our account?
It's 8:05.
Oh, 8:05. Sorry. Yep.
oh, is this for Mitre 10?
Any just general tips, rugby tips?
Just the mighty Queensland
for the punters.
flogging New South Wales.
Yeah, up to Queensland. Queensland.
12 plus.
Does that start
12
this
plus.
week?
Yeah, Wednesday, isn't it?
Come on,
Yeah,
Roger.
Wednesday.
Holy!
I could never take that tip.
I was going
I'm
to
gonna have
say.
to edit that out.
So, Sully, these
Fine,
are
I'm a
both
diehard
Blues supporters over here.
Oh,
These two.
well, a part-time only after game 3.
No, mate. All time, mate. It's going to be a whitewash. It's going to be a clean sweep.
Oh,
You guys
Easy
are only
now,
good on
easy.
paper right now.
Blues.
You're good on paper.
Oh. No. I'm confident,
Yeah,
mate.
well,
They've
good,
got
yeah. You're Sally thinking outside the box there. That's an interesting tip there. What about you, Joey, mate? Have you got a tip for our TAB account?
I've got some picks if you want to do a multi. Otago to beat Southland this Friday.
Ooh, that'll be a good game. Yeah.
Auckland is definitely a favourite to beat Northland, unfortunately. I'm a big fan of the Taniwha. Spent so much time up there. North Harbour to beat Counties, unfortunately. I've got a lot of time for Counties. And yes, I have to go with Canterbury to lose to Tasman, only based on current form. Historically, that money would have gone to Canterbury. And then New Zealand to beat the Aussies at Suncorp, of all places. The home
So is it that test? Is
of
it?
origin. What's that?
So is it Argentina or is it Australia?
I'm just checking the schedule now. So Saturday the 7th, Australia, New Zealand. I think, yeah, you're right, Joey, at Suncorp.
Oh, shoot.
The following
4
week,
games in a
New
row.
Zealand's playing. New Zealand will be playing Argentina the following week. So
Australia, New
quite
Zealand,
good.
9:45 kickoff.
Oh, mate, sounds like a good week of footy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good week of footy for sure. I think some quite good tips there, boys. I think Hawke's Bay is playing Wellington for the Shield, so that'll be a good match.
Hey.
I don't even know who I think who will take that one, but that might be worth looking at for a tip. I like that one for Tasman. Tasman to heap more pain on Canterbury, which will be good. But my tip, obviously, I'm going to do this tip before the teams have been named. But Caleb Clark, he's really set the the international rugby scene on fire, but he still hasn't got a try. So my tip is for the week is Caleb Clark. I'm assuming he's going to hold a spot on the wing, and he'll score his first test try this weekend.
Oh, shucks, yeah, he still hasn't, eh?
For the weekend.
Bloody hell.
So we've got some good stuff there, boys. If all these tips come through, we could be in with a big amount of money. But we're just about to finish up, boys. So we'll just go around and get some final thoughts in closing. So, Rog, mate, I'll come to you, brother. What do you got? Any final words for us?
A couple of weeks ago, you made mention of the French team, and like Joey said, that he's thinking that he's picking the Australians to be taking out the 2023 World Cup. I watched the Wales game versus France, and they look good. The French, they look good, and they won.
You see
and
my
not just a
halfback
friendly.
first five, those two guys I picked?
Absolutely, yeah, that's right.
Awesome.
So it
They
was
were awesome.
Pont from the
Yeah.
halfback, and another son of French legend
Intermac.
yeah. And they look really good, and especially their halfback.
Oh, he's awesome.
And he scored a couple of tries and set up a couple of tries, and he was all over the place. So he reminds me of an Aaron Smith, but then more so of a nuggety Sharky Robinson / who else is that in that mold?
Almost
halfback,
like a
yeah.
Faf the
Quite stocky but really, really quick and breaks the defense. So, no, I'm quite lucky. And I'm sticking with France to win the World Cup in 2023. Home tournament for them as well.
Love these
Yeah,
big calls
first,
coming
it'll
out
be their
straight
maiden
away.
win.
Yeah.
What's that?
This is
The
Roger's
big calls
last
just keep going
podcast
the
with us.
podcast.
Yeah. I saw in the Georgia again another friendly. Georgia losing to Scotland.
Oh,
And
no.
it was a convincing win, 48-7 to Scotland in the warm up, leading into the 8 Nations or the Nations Rugby.
Is Milton not coaching them anymore?
I'm not too sure who the coach is. Milton Hague.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's current coach, but yeah, it was interesting to see that result. I was hoping that Georgia would have a better showing, but who knows? That it is just a warm up. But I think that there's always going to be the Fiji might be similar, where they take a few hammerings to get used to the speed of things, playing against Tier 1 nations week in, week out for the duration of this tournament. But hopefully not. Hopefully Fiji and Georgia do have a few upsets, and I think they'll be gunning for the Scotlands and the Italys to try and get a win across the line there for their respective teams. But what hasn't been brought up and talked about was Alun Wyn Jones. He brought up 147 to equal Richie McCaw's
Good point.
record as well. But that also includes a few, a handful of games for the British and Irish Lions. So for me, Richie McCaw still has a record in terms of playing for his national side. Yeah. But who knows how long Alun Wyn Jones is going to be around for? Will he be able to reach that next World Cup and still be able to cleanly have enough caps more than Richie McCaw just for Wales alone? It's soon to be, but I guess the next week his next game will be the one where he eclipses Richie McCaw's international games. But yeah, not out and out for me. I still, the jury's out on that one in relation to being for his country, Wales. But goes to show the longevity of the man. So he was once the captain of Wales a few years ago, and he got dropped. But it shows a lot of character for him to be able to come back and play that many games for his national side. So those are just my thoughts, Northern Hemisphere.
Nice. Hey, Roger, I'll just come to you one more time. Where do you see Alun Wyn Jones in the grand scheme of the locks? Because I know 148 tests, that's nothing to be sneezed at, or whatever the number he's up to. But when you compare him to say John Eales and Martin Johnson and Colin Meads and these guys, where do you put him in the greatness of locks?
Yeah, obviously in Wales, he's a legend.
Victor Matfield's another guy.
Yeah, he's a legend in Wales. Highly revered in the Northern Hemisphere, obviously. Where he fits in the pecking order, I think John Eales is still going to be. He's got 2 World Cups as well behind him. John Eales, is it 2 or 1? Just a 1.
I think he's got 2.
2, 91, 99. Was he around 99, 91?
91, 99. I'm not sure if he was
Definitely
around
99. I'm not sure about 91, but he's still got a World Cup. He's got a World Cup under him. Alun Wyn Jones, of all
got John Eales
the amount of
at
games he's played, it'd be interesting to see the percentage of wins, because obviously they've got Grand Slams under under Warren Gatland at the time, and now Wayne Pivac. So not a good start for Wayne Pivac taking over, another Kiwi taking the helm of the Welsh rugby side. Alun Wyn Jones, where he fits in the pecking order, I think for his longevity and for the amount of games he's played, he has to have some sort of legendary status, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. He's just a real silent sort of thug. One of those players who probably just gets away with a bit of murder in the bottom of the ruck. But, just one of those grinders, and you can't speak highly enough of the man for the amount of games he's played, I suppose. But he's been an interesting watch. The older he's got and the longer you've watched him, you notice how much hair he's lost over that time, from a full head of hair to, a few strands combing over on the top there. But to be able to play that long, you got to give him props for that. But where he fits in the picking order, I think John Eales is still up there. He's got Martin Johnson. He'll be in the same sort of level as Martin Johnson for England, I believe. Victor Matfield, does he get mentioned in the same sort of conversations as Victor Matfield? But he's a cross between Victor Matfield and Bucky's Botha.
Oh, hell no. Hell no.
That's disrespectful, man.
You haven't actually, you've said a lot of words without actually answering the question. That's the problem, Rod. You've said a lot without saying anything right there.
Those poor South African
What
legends.
about you guys? I'll get you guys to answer that quickly. Just with Alun Wyn Jones, where do you see him in the grand scheme of locks? 148 tests, the most kept rugby player of all time. Lock is such a hard position to pick because every country has got great locks. We've got Colin Meads. Australia's got John Eales, like you mentioned. Victor Matfield, Marty Johnson. Where do you put Alun Wyn Jones?
He'd be top 25, but like at the bottom.
Come on.
You can't be giving when you're calling the greatest locks of all time. You can't be giving him sympathy points just because of the test he's played. What's the English lock's name?
Marty Johnson.
No.
Courtney.
Mauro Toje.
Oh, Toje.
I would rate him over Alun Wyn Jones right now, just on pure skill, talent, and like that's just a call for now. But if he has a long career, he would be right up there. Now I'd rate man. How many locks have we had? I'd rate Ali Williams over him. I'd rate
No way.
I'm purely more on the longevity, his how long he's been there, the amount of tests he's played.
2003 to 2011, one of the best locks. He had like competition like Victor Matfield, Bucky's Botha, but there was a time when he was the number one lock. 2007 World Cup, probably the best forward in that whole World Cup. Ali Williams.
The most awkward to watch when he's doing the haka though.
Yeah, well that's white boy passion, bro. But I'd rate Martin Johnson, and that he skipped England to a World Cup. I'd rate Brodie Retallick. I'd rate who else? Sam Whitelock over him. And these are just guys that are still playing right now. Well, how high do you hold this guy? Like,
I hold him highly. Jonathan Davies said that he's the greatest player that Wales have ever produced.
Oh,
that's good because they've never produced any great players.
Is Jonathan Davies not like Yaya Nevins?
Far out, Jonathan Davies.
Is he not like Neil Jenkins? Jonathan
JPR Williams, I probably.
See, Jonathan Davies,
JPR Williams as well.
He's caught in the moment of playing alongside him and revering him as a skipper and one of his leadership group.
Jonathan Davies said that because he was standing right next to Alun Wyn Jones.
He may be a good guy like to play.
I think JPR Williams is the greatest.
Come on. No, what's his name?
You're right, Stace.
There's some old guys back in the 80s. They were good Welsh players. Oh, it was.
Alun Wyn Jones, I'm just having a look now. I think he was nominated for World Player of the Year 3 times. He hasn't won it, but he's in that small group of best players in the world. So I put him right up there. I think he's in the top 4.
Man, I wouldn't even put him in
locks who've ever lived.
top 4.
I can see you on the video there, Sully. You obviously disagree. Yeah, of
There's
all
just
time.
times that
I think he's.
yeah. I used to question
I'd
how is
consider
this
him
guy
in
still
my
getting
greatest
picked?
15.
How is he still getting picked? You know,
Top.
have
So
they got no
who's your
locking
list?
stocks in order to still pick him? And then all of a sudden, 148. He's equaling Richie McCaw, and then he passes him the week after.
Stace, who's your top 4?
So I've got John Eels. I'll pick Colin Meads at second. I'll pick Alun Wyn Jones at third, and Victor Matfield at fourth. I wouldn't even pick Martin Johnson. I wouldn't
So
pick Sam Whitelock.
what's your reasoning for picking Alun Wyn Jones at number 3?
The longevity, 3-time World Player of the Year nominee, possibly the greatest player Wales have ever had, by Welsh pundits. You know, I mean, you can't. His record is nothing to be sneezed at. He played in
What's his win
not a
record?
great team, Wales. Yeah, well, that's a team record. That's not an individual thing.
Oh,
Here's-
my goodness.
You know, so I'm not
Here's
going to
the
hold
question.
him responsible for someone else.
Here we go. Oh, my
Thing.
Can I weigh in on this, Stace?
Come on, because
Of course,
he's
of
doing
course.
a lot of breathing drills over here, Joey, and things.
Because
He needs some ventilation in that room.
The question was, what was the question, Stace? The question was, how do you rate Alun Wyn Jones? Is that
Yeah,
the question?
in the pantheon of all time, in the pantheon of the great locks, and they've been locked.
Okay.
Lock is
Third
probably the
best
most
lock in rugby history,
competitive position
apparently.
in history.
Okay. So
Yeah.
when I'm asked a question like that for a particular position, in this case it's lock. I don't even think of Alun Wyn Jones as the first name that pops up, or even the first 10 names that pops up. So I'm totally with Sully on that. He's probably past 25 as well for me. Like I rate guys who
Oh, man, that's hard.
I rate guys from tier 2 nations that played lock over him.
So you can't still be picking Leo Falaniko, mate.
Leo Falaniko, Leo Lafayette,
Lafayette.
Lamatone,
Teofilo Polo. Oh, no.
mate.
Nah, but longevity, though, guys. Longevity.
Okay, so here's something that I talked about in the earlier episodes of Counter Ruck, Stace. I'm not sure if you remember, but what I said was longevity.
I know what you're going to say. Yeah, carry on.
Doesn't always translate to greatness. Just because someone's played for a long time and has all that experience under their belt doesn't mean they did things that were amazing in that time. Like, what's his name? Steve Hansen said it during a World Cup, I think, last year. He said, yep, sure, has all the experience, but that doesn't mean, he gets automatic selection. I don't know who he was talking about, but there was someone at the time. So when I think of Alun Wyn Jones, I think, okay, he was an awesome leader to those guys he played with. He was an awesome teammate to those guys he played with. And there obviously wasn't other great locks in the Welsh stock to push him outside of that 148 tests, right? Because let's face it, if that's their 148, 149 test cap bloody player, you have to ask the question, where the hell are all the good locks? Obviously not in Wales, because when I think of the top 5 locks, I don't even think of a Welshman in that, because Wales aren't known for their locks.
No.
They're known more for their backs than their locks. And maybe their hair bear props. Here's another example. England had the most capped test prop, Jason Leonard. 111 caps, I think, as a prop. He was nothing amazing. He was better off the field than he was on it. He was better off the field than he was on it. I rate bloody Phil Vickery over that guy.
I think he's the all-time great, Jason Leonard.
Oh, you're saying that from the point of view of longevity. I get it. I get your affiliation with longevity meaning greatness. It doesn't necessarily.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily, but it's got to play some part in.
You know what this is? Stacey is one of those kids at school that turned up to school every day and got like a attendance award and thought he was the best student at school.
Yes. You got an award for you got an award
What do you think?
you got an award
He's
for
got a
coming
reward
eighth
for
in the
coming to
race
school
next
every
day.
day. When
The
Sully and Joey were wagging every now and then.
So here's an example, Stace, of greatness and doesn't have
This was
longevity.
meant to be final thoughts segment, eh? Carry on.
Christian Cullen, that's greatness. He didn't even get anywhere near 100 tests. That's
True.
greatness.
Yeah.
That's what you call greatness.
Yeah, but
You know,
still, where then does Mills Muliaina fit in the greater scheme of things?
Unfortunately for me, I always think of Cully over Mills.
Yep.
And
Mills.
if you ask Mills, he'll probably say the same thing.
No, case in point. So yeah, that's true. Cullen in that regard, but then still Mills Muliaina will forever be remembered as a centurion,
Yeah,
and
Yes.
there's
but-
some merit in that.
what we're forgetting, right? There are 2 locks on the field at one time. Oh, 4 locks including the opposition, but 2 per team. Stacey said Alun Wyn Jones is the 3rd best lock in rugby history. For how long rugby has been going? He is the 3rd best lock to ever put on a jersey in all of rugby.
You know what? I know this is
Here's a-
this is the podcast of big calls, and I'm standing by that call. You know,
Here's
he
another
was
one.
3-time World Player of the Year nominee, most kept rugby player of all time. Arguably, his peers have voted him the greatest Welsh player who's ever lived. He was named in the team of the decade. So for you guys to
Here's one.
dismiss him as not
Stace.
being up there, that's
Stace.
that, to me, maybe the
Stace,
truth
here's
is
one.
somewhere in the middle. But I think he's
Stace.
higher than you guys rate him.
Here's a bit of a spanner to throw in the works, and this is with the help of Cam Schuster, who's remaining quiet there. How many World Cups has he won?
So is that the tipping point for
Well,
Richie
I mean,
McCaw?
that's a team. That's the
Despite
team thing.
having
I
played so many
don't
games.
hold individual performances. I can separate the two.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, I do not remember a year where Alun Wyn Jones was the most dominant lock in
Yes,
both northern and southern hemisphere.
Exactly.
I would say from his
Just in
prime,
Wales.
which would say from last World Cup 2015 to maybe say 2008. The most dominant locks in that period, I'd probably say there were probably 4. That would probably be Bucky Sporter, Victor Matfield, 5 actually. Sam Whitelock, Brodie Retallick, and the Irish lock. I
Brodie
rate him
Retallick.
highly.
O'Connor.
O'Connor.
O'Connell.
O'Connell. He was probably the best lock in the
Paul
Northern
O'Connell.
Hemisphere over the
Paul
last
O'Connell.
couple of years.
Yes.
I rate
Paul
him
O'Connell.
a whole
Well,
bunch
interesting
higher.
fact of
O'Connell
Paul
over
O'Connell.
Alun
He
Wyn.
was. Paul O'Connell did not make the world team of the decade because Alun Wyn Jones was the lock that got
Simply
picked.
Because there were Welsh
And also,
selectors in there.
none of those locks that you
team of the
mentioned,
decade.
none of those locks you mentioned were nominated 3 times for World Player of the Year. Like this, we're talking about. I'm trying to separate the individual from the team
Yeah.
because if you
Okay.
look at the individual performance, that's why I use those individual statistics because you could be awesome, like Brian Lemar was awesome in a mud team, but does that mean that he wasn't good because his team was crap? You know what I mean?
But
So
some
if
of
you can
it, some,
separate the individual performance from the team performance, then that's where you can get a real gauge of where he's at.
yeah, but some of his
These final thoughts, Raj, you've
some-
opened up a can of worms here.
some of these gradings are done off his rep rugby as well. So I'm not too sure the team that he represents for in not on the international level, but if we were going to pick the 3 best ever, we got to grade them on the highest platform of footy, and we know that's world rugby. And if he's never been the most dominant lock on an international level, which is the highest level of footy that we know of, and that's not even including World Cups, that's including just year in and year out. Like that's how I see it. Like I've never seen him change a game, and that's just me. Like we've seen locks change a game. You know the way that Bucky Sportner and Victor Matfield, they pretty much changed the way locks are. Like our locks, Sam Whitelock and Brodie Retallick and Paddy Tupou, that's the mold. You know they were strong in the middle, but man, workhorses. But they were guys you don't want to mess with. And that it might be just the different lenses that we're looking through in terms of grading our locks. That's all.
Yeah. Well said. It's interesting. It's interesting debate. Probably one that we could go on for ages, but I don't want to carry this on any longer.
Yeah. Fine.
We'll agree to disagree. I think Alun Wyn Jones, if you're listening, mate, I've got your back, mate. I'm a big fan of yours.
Mate, he's not even known for the primary role of a lock, which is lineouts. He's not even known for that.
Well, it's his all-round game. That's the thing. He's got no
Alun Wyn
weakness.
Jones.
Oh,
So he's
man.
played 238 games for the Ospreys. That's got to be something as
There
well.
you go.
It's nothing
Oh,
to
mate,
sneeze
That's
at.
probably
just
what's
pushes him.
taken. That's what's
That's
taken.
pushed him in the top three.
uh,
That's that. Anyway, we've got to move on.
238 games for Ospreys, 35 for Swansea, 140 for Wales, 9 for the British and Irish Lions. So that's a
There you
lot of
go.
first-class games.
Alun Wyn Jones, congratulations, the most kept Test player of all time, and the third best lock in history, according to me. But Sally, mate, we'll get you. You've got some final thoughts. We're supposed to have closed up 25 minutes ago.
So I'm gonna
Carry on.
Yeah, my final thoughts is interested to see how the Wallabies will bounce back this weekend. It was going to be a massive feat to always play against a more experienced backline, and if anything, I hope the Aussie fans are a lot more patient with Rennie. He's got the goods, but it's whether the fans as well as the sponsors and the management have the patience to support him. Rennie's got the record for it, so we saw flashes and glimpses when he's got the key figures when O'Connor and Matt Samoa were in the team, and you could see what potentially what the Wallabies could be moving down the line. But yeah, I'm just interested to see how they bounce back this weekend. Looking forward to Origin on Wednesday as well. Looking forward to Queensland. The Queensland dethroning New South Wales, but we'll see how that goes. And I'd just like to make a shout out to the club jersey I'm wearing today. It's the Petone Club down in Wellington. Some of the boys I know down in Wellington, we all jammed together. But it's the club of Dane Coles. So quite a few clubs down there. Some of the shout out to some of the boys, James Mosse, Brandon Frederica, and Geordie down there. So massive shout out to those boys there.
Nice, Joey, mate. Coming to you.
Oh, I'm still on that Alun Wyn Jones thing.
You know what? We got to do a podcast on Alun Wyn Jones now.
Like I even rate Norm Maxwell over him.
Oh, see, come on. Now we're getting
the Camo kid. I'd rate
Ian Jones.
legendary Ian Jones over him.
Ian Jones. I rate Ian
Do
Jones
you know
over
who I would rate over him? John O'Gibbs, and he only probably had a handful of tests.
Yes.
Suddenly, he was a loose forward as well.
Yes,
Alun Wyn
yes.
Jones has played loose forward too, number 6 as well. So I don't think
even-
he's been out of their lock.
I rate Troy Flavel over him.
Oh, Troy Flair, of course. I'd rate Rodney Soyalo over him, and he only covered that lock.
Yeah, he jumped in the lineup.
Oh,
Crack up.
so
man.
I'll rate James Asekona over Alun Wyn
Oh
Jones.
yes, James is
Legend.
corner. Yes. But my final thought: be careful who you call great in this game.
Yeah.
Because longevity doesn't mean greatness.
Oh, nice. I like that.
I'm looking forward to this Bledisloe match. Some people call it dead rubber. I call it entertainment at the expense of the Wallabies. Unfortunately for the Wallabies, So, looking forward to putting a bet on 13 plus at the TAB for the All Blacks.
Nice. Yeah, boys, it looks like it's going to be quite an action-packed weekend with the games that we've talked about coming through. So I think it could be a good, basically from Wednesday onwards, a good days on the couch with the Bears. But good thoughts there, boys. Just want to thank all the listeners for joining us for another episode of the Counteract. We're available on the usual podcast platforms, so Stitcher, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and now YouTube. If you've been watching us, and we've got heaps of other different ones as well. So keep listening and watching and providing that feedback for us. But yeah, boys, thanks for being part of the pod and sharing your rugby knowledge and enthusiasm. So Joey, Saleh, Rog, thanks, boys. Cam's doing the fact check. Thanks for coming on, and we'll be back again next week. So see us then.
Cheers, brothers.
Thanks for
See you, brothers.
chiming into the Alun Wyn Jones.
Go, Alun Wyn Jones.
So Alun
man,
Wyn,
yeah.
number one
Mate.
fan club.
I can't
Number
believe how
3.
low you rated,
Basically, had him
man.
at 3. I wouldn't have him as high
I've
as
got him
3.
top 5. I've got him top 5 easy. Top 5 easy. 3. I could be persuaded 3, 4, or 5, but
I'd have him in the
Top 5.
top 10. But look, even Nashim Shah, he features in the top 10 in one of the picks.
come
This
on.
was back in 2015. This is in the UK.